Go
Your
Blue.
guy's back. He'll be back.
Harbaugh. Free Harbaugh. He's back.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire, fan of the Broncos who have won 5 straight, fan of Texas who blew out their rival and are going into the Big 12 title game, and also a one-man Thanksgiving machine because he made it for himself. Jody!
I made half my food. I actually went and hung out with Johnny and his girlfriend, so
Okay. All right.
I
Good.
wasn't just cooking up for me. But I don't know how everything turned out because it was like I winged most of the food I made. Like the cream corn, I didn't have flour, so I used a little bit of the corn bread mix in there. And then like the spices, I just threw in whatever I had. Might taste a little funky, a little garlicky, but it is what it is.
Okay.
And then I housed a whole thing of Hawaiian rolls. Be honest,
Nice.
that's gas,
Well done. Well
straight gas.
done. I was gonna ask you how your Thanksgiving was. It sounds like it was really good. So I'm
Yeah, it
I'm
was
uh, I'm
chill.
happy for you.
Yeah, watch football, of course. Got three decent games. I guess the first one was the most important. That was one we wrote off rip.
True.
So
True.
yeah. And then the other ones, they were just there. I didn't really watch much of that Niners game, but I don't really think I missed much. But
You did it.
yeah. Other than that, I
other
mean,
than
it's all
other
day.
than
What about you?
Thanksgiving was good. Had a good time at Jill's parents' house. Met a
Uh,
bunch of people. That's always a good time on a holiday. Had a
How many
bunch of
names
good
did you have
food.
to ask for again later on in the day?
How many what?
Names did you have to ask people to tell you
Oh,
what they were?
a million. It felt like a million. By the end of the day, I was really tired. It was a long day.
Uh-huh.
It was fun. It was good. Um, and good food, lots of it too.
Yeah.
I made a nice spinach dip bread bowl, and
Ooh,
the fam loved it. I made a good impression apparently.
there you go.
Um, I was asked to make it again if they ever
Oh,
host anything there, and I'm coming.
so
I was
like a
asked to make it
Christmas or
again. So,
something. Yeah.
yep. So I think I did, pretty good. My weekend got even better because Michigan beat Ohio State in the game.
Yeah.
And, I haven't professed my love for Michigan much on this podcast because it's mostly an NFL podcast. But for those of you that don't know, I'm a big Michigan fan. You can see it in the background there.
Uh-huh.
And that game is like, it's called the game for a reason. It's probably the most important game in my livelihood that I don't actually coach on a year in and year out basis. And it will determine my mood for a weekend. So the last 3 years, it's been really good, really good. So
Yeah.
shout out to Michigan for beating Ohio State for the 3rd year in a row. Go
Your
Blue.
guy's back. He'll be back.
Harbaugh, free Harbaugh. He's back.
Yeah.
Free him. He's back. But we got to dive right into the NFL news, my guy. I'll start us off. The Steelers. We talked about them firing Matt Canada. That was big news on Tuesday. And they had 421 yards of offense today. They only had like 16 points, I think, but they had
Yeah.
421 yards of offense, which was their first 400-yard day in like 2.5 seasons. And it was also their most yards since week 16 of 2018. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say
Yeah,
that
that's a
again
long
because I
time.
don't know if
Long
I don't
time.
know if anyone is understanding what I just like. Week 16 of 2018. It's been 5 years since they had a 421-yard day. Now, clearly, we can play the results, right? We can play the results game, but it does kind of feel like maybe Matt Canada was the problem.
How
It's hard
long was
not.
he their OC?
I think his first year might have been 18. Maybe it was
Oh,
19, but
okay.
for a while he had been the OC there for a while, and he never had a day like that the entire time he was their offensive coordinator. So The Steelers obviously beat the Bengals with a backup quarterback in Jake Browning, who didn't look terrible for a while, and then he threw a pick that was pretty costly. And but ultimately, good day for the Steelers, and obviously, I think maybe a bad day for Matt Canada because that doesn't look great.
All right, so I guess he was their QB coach in 2020, and then was OC in the next year.
Okay, that makes sense. I was gonna say I thought he had been on the staff for a while.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's wild. That it was before this man even was coaching or before he was their OC, which is hilarious. Got to
Hmm.
show out with that when the man not being there no more.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's right. He was in golly, the last time the Steelers had a day like this, Matt Canada was the interim head coach at Maryland.
My guy
In
was in the
college.
NCAA.
Yeah, in college. So, yeah, tough look for Matt Canada today, but good for the good win for the Steelers.
Yeah, next thing we're looking at the Broncos winning their 5th straight game, as you talked about at the top. They beat the Browns, and it's funny that it says, it shouldn't. It's not funny to say, but we had talked about it, me, Johnny, and Mitch, where it's like Johnny said, "So is Bounty Gate back, or because these fools just smacking everyone out here?" And with that being said, our guy DTR got concussed. Mari Cooper hurt his ribs. Hey, you said playoffs? The
Playoffs?
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 Hey, bro,
The
I
Broncos?
did a little
Playoffs?
sprinkle. I did it a little sprinkle that one day. I said 2 teams from the AFC West. We'll see, we'll see.
Ooh, wow.
If they could knock the Chargers out of that in the hunt graphic, then we'll be talking for sure.
Well, we'll
And the
see. That game is going on right
Buffalo's
now.
sliding too
Yeah,
after today,
yeah.
so
Well, and then it also helps you that the Chiefs come back from down 14 to beat the Raiders today. They get a comeback win. They were down
yeah,
14-0. They came back and won the game 31-17 to get back in the win
crazy.
column. The AFC is wild. It changes every week in terms of playoff picture, which we'll get to eventually here. But
Mhm.
good win for the Chiefs today and also helps your Broncos.
Yeah, let's see. Jaguars, they beat the Texans today after a long game. It was a 3-point game,
Yep.
and the Jags now have a 2-game lead on the division at 8-3. Which I mean, that being said, maybe my Texans take the division isn't looking too hot, but I mean they'll probably make the playoffs pretty easily at this point. So at least we got that.
I stuck with the Jags. I told you to stick with the Jags. I
Yeah, you
told you.
did.
I told you to stick with Trevor Lawrence. I like CJ. CJ is the next like him quarterback right now, but he's still a
Yeah.
rookie and the Texans are still building and there's still some stuff that
Mhm.
they do that you can tell they're a young team. And they're getting there and they're very talented and they've got some
Yeah.
stuff and I do like them to sneak into the playoffs this year, I think. But not for the division, not yet.
Yeah, I saw that pass that he threw to Tank Dell that got brought back to a penalty. I don't know if you've seen that. I
Mhm.
guess would have been the longest like through the air pass completed in I don't know how long, which was like 68 yards or something. But obviously, he got brought back due to a penalty, which is
Mhm.
crazy.
I've got some good nuggets for you because we are in week 12, so it's QB tiers week,
Yeah,
and I do have some good CJ nuggets for you that I think you'll like.
dope, dope. Yeah, he's a baller for sure. Let's see. Next thing we're looking at though, the Patriots. Let's see. You said they tanked their way to another loss by missing a field goal against the Giants and lost 10-7 to DeVito, who gets his second win, which
Um,
is a wild time. I thought our guy Saquon was gonna ball this week,
I,
but
I just
wasn't the case.
I just wanted to call this like this was the meme game of the year.
Uh-huh.
The
Who
memes
wanted to
after
lose
he missed
more?
this, yes, I mean it just unreal. Like instantly, as soon as he misses the field goal, I saw three in a row. And I won't bore you with describing any more than these three, but the three that were the funniest. Number one, Pro Football Focus tweets a picture of Drake May in a Patriots uniform, and it just says, Drake May, you are a Patriot. Um, Number two, It was a clip of the movie The Replacements. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but
I
there's a
watched it
kicker.
actually after we talked about it. I watched it not too
There's
long ago.
Yeah, okay, so you remember the kicker and the mob is after him and everything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
So they said that the Patriots kicker was that guy looking up into the stands, and that was DeVito's family. I thought that was funny. And then the last one was a picture of Robert Kraft on the phone, and it was like, "Yeah, Bill, wide left." And then that's what happened. So, um, great memes, great stuff, and ultimately probably a good thing for the Patriots that they missed the kick and they don't have to go to overtime and they lose another game. And now they have great odds to be a top 3 pick, if not second. So good for the Pats. I mean, they're really bad. They need a
Uh-huh.
quarterback. They will probably be able to get one now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as it's not a receiver, I have all the faith that they'll make a good decision.
Yeah, if they draft Marvin Harrison, just assume Marvin Harrison will not make apparently will not make it. So, just keep that in mind. Now, I also want to give a shout out. This happened on Thanksgiving Day, so it feels like old news because it's Sunday now, but
Yeah.
Deron Bland sets the
Mhm.
new NFL record. This 5th INT return for a touchdown on Thanksgiving against the Commanders. Also, shout out to Jim Nantz for just being money on the call. Like, as soon as he picked it, he was like, "This could be it." And
Yeah,
he
this
was
could be
just he was
history.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, great call, like, forever etched in history for sure. Um, awesome stuff from Jim Nantz and also Deron Bland, just unreal.
Mhm.
Also embarrassing for the Commanders that the Cowboys hid turkey legs all over the field, knowing that they were gonna be winning by so many points that they could celebrate by eating turkey legs. That's insane.
Yeah, they
Um,
got that early day. My guy Dak Prescott was over there munching on him after that
yeah,
touchdown.
right away.
And then the Rams today, they got their second straight win. They blew out the Cardinals 37-14 on the return of Kyron Williams, bro. That dude went crazy today. Through the
Wild.
air and through the run game. My guy, he was definitely missed. I mean, then we saw our guy Royce Freeman also get a rushing touchdown for like 30
Mhm.
yards too.
The Rolls Royce was out today. Took him for a spin. Yeah, the Rams looked good. That's the best their offense has looked in
In a long
basically
time.
since the Super Bowl is
I
what I
could
would
say
say.
since Coop went down last year, it was probably
Yeah, yeah. That was some of the best football they've played since their Super Bowl run. So, congrats to Sean McVay and the Rams. Matthew Stafford playing through injury. The Packers. We talked about this a little bit. They upset the Lions on Thanksgiving. They won their 3rd game in their
mhm.
last 4, second in a row. And they're in the thick of the wild card race right now. They do have that tiebreaker over the Rams and the Saints because they beat
Yeah,
both those teams. They've got 2 games against the Vikings coming up. Those are going to be huge. So the Packers are right there. The way Jordan Love is playing right now, they could very
he
well
looking
end up
nice.
in the playoffs. Yeah. So we'll see. And on the flip side of that, the Seahawks are suddenly in free fall. They were 6-3, looking and feeling pretty good about themselves. They are now 6-5 after losing their second game in a row against the Niners, and now they have a short week where they have to go to Dallas, who has not lost a
Mhm.
game at home in 13 games. Um, are we ready to start asking questions about the Seahawks? Are we panicked about the Seahawks at all, Joey?
I wouldn't say we're well, their schedule's getting tough. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know if it's necessarily panic mode, but their schedule is definitely gonna be hard. And at that point, you might say you should panic. But I mean, at that point, you could say they're battle tested. Like, who knows? They could go into Dallas and beat them for the first time in the 13 games. And although it says that won't happen because they have a losing record, but it's very doable considering I think the Cowboys they might be on a little fraud alert. I don't know. Who knows?
See, this would be if the Cowboys beat the Seahawks, it would be technically the first time they haven't beat a team at home, or, haven't beat a team with a losing record, but the Seahawks would be 6-6 if they beat them. So it wouldn't be a winning record either. It would just
Yeah,
but it
I
would
don't know.
definitely be it
It's
would be the
murky
Cowboys'
waters.
best it would be the Cowboys' best win of the season for
Yeah.
sure. And honestly for the Seahawks, it would probably be their best win of the season. I mean, their best win right now is they went into Detroit and won. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's tough.
but this winning in Dallas when Dallas is on a 13-game winning streak at home would be a better win, I think, despite what we think of the Lions and the Cowboys. So both of these teams, it's a huge game for both teams because it kind of feels like it's a prove-it game. And the
Yeah,
loser, we're probably not going to feel, the Seahawks, if they lose with their upcoming schedule, they still got to play the Niners. They still have the Eagles. We
yeah, well,
talked about
the
that last
the
week.
Cowboys do as well, and the
Well,
Bills following that, and then the
yeah,
Dolphins, which who
that's what
knows
I'm
about
saying.
that? How
The
you feel
the
about that?
Seahawks have, and the Cowboys both have tougher schedules coming up, and it does feel like the loser of this game we may not take seriously as a real playoff opponent,
Mhm.
moving forward. So not necessarily an elimination game, but uh,
Separates
definitely,
the men from the boys,
yeah.
in a sense.
The Dolphins, they dominated the first Black Friday game
Mhm.
against the
Smoked the
Jets,
Jets.
which felt very to be expected. The Jets started Tim Boyle, who we will cover
Yeah.
in the QB tiers today, unfortunately. But
Does that mean Zach
um,
Wilson falls out, or is it a little spoiler?
I'm not telling you.
To be continued.
To
Stay
be to
tuned.
be to be said. Jalen Phillips though tore his Achilles, which
Yeah, that's
sucks.
tough.
I
That's
Injuries
tough.
suck, and then like when we're getting in the playoff race, and like that Dolphins defense was starting to play well. And remember,
Yeah.
few weeks ago, I said they were pretenders because I didn't trust their defense. I was finally getting to the point where I was like, I might think this defense is a lot more real. Now that injury changes everything. It just sucks
Mhm.
because they've never there was like a 3-week window where they had all their dudes, where they had Chubb and
Yeah.
Phillips and Jalen Ramsey was back and Javon Holland and Xavier Howard, and now it's like guys are dropping like flies because Javon Holland also got hurt. His is not a season-ending injury, but he's nicked up now. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see the best of that Dolphins defense this year because of all the injuries.
Yeah, and that was one thing I was looking forward to considering, I mean, they're in the race for their division, and it's like, you know, if they can continue this, we might see a different playoff picture like down the stretch, maybe divisional round through the AFC Championship and whatnot. But I mean, it's still early. We still got plenty of time. But yeah, that injury alone is just terrible. And the Achilles again, bro. Like Achilles been dropping left and right. You know what I mean? We had
Yeah.
started with Rodgers week 1, and it's just wilding out of
Cousins,
control. Yeah, Cousins.
Phillips. Yeah. Um, then we have the game of the year, I would say.
The
Bills Eagles
Bills Eagles.
finished up right before we got on to record.
Mhm.
Um, number one, you got to talk about Josh Allen played his best game of the season for sure.
Yeah.
Played excellent.
In the rain
Um,
too.
the Eagles' resolve and ability to throw punches when being punched for the second week in a row is incredible.
You're
Um,
calling them who's our guy that fought the Paul
Rocky.
brother? No.
I'm calling him Rocky, who embodies the spirit of Philly, dude. They'll take punches but they'll go down to the mat, but they're just getting right back
Philly, the
up and they're
ultimate
throwing them.
goon.
Yeah. Um, Jake Elliott from 59 yards away in the rain to tie it on bad field conditions is one of the better kicks I think I've ever seen.
Shake
I
the
mean,
mate, bro. That's what they're
that's
calling him.
that's right up there. That's right up there with the Justin Tucker like 63-yarder in Detroit, like with clean conditions. Like, think about that. This thing was 59
Yeah.
yards in the rain with a wet field and a wet ball and like all of that. That's freaking
Yeah.
impressive, dude. That's like
I wonder what
one of the
the
better
AWS
and
stats was on that.
the stones on that dude to do that. Like, because if he misses, they lose. It's game over.
Yeah.
He had to make it to
Ice
tie.
cold,
Like,
bro. Ice in his veins.
then you figure the Bills win the toss. They go down there. They don't score a touchdown, but they do kick a field goal.
The field goal.
Eagle
Yeah.
Eagles come right back, score the touchdown, walk it off. Jalen Hurts walk off tutty. The Eagles feel like they're not losing for a while right
Nope.
now.
I told it's crazy. Well, we could talk about it real quick. I had the -3. That's what they won by, so it was a push on that bet. But also, it was like at one point when I saw the score, I was like, maybe it's not gonna happen. And then they bring it back and get the push.
Well, it's interesting because I had my scorching hot take a couple weeks ago with the Lions getting the 1 seed. That ain't happening now. I'll just tell you. I mean, I
Yeah.
was wrong.
Yeah.
But Philly does have a hard schedule the rest of the way. They've gotten
Mhm.
through the the front end of it. They do have to play the Niners next week. And the Niners are
This will be
coming in, they're
fun because this
healthy.
is what could have been
That
last year,
Yeah,
so
and I do think the Niners could beat them. I think that
yeah.
may be the one other loss they suffer this year. Going to Dallas will be a really hard game for them too. But yeah, that they've still got a couple more tough ones, but yeah, they certainly have survived
Ooh,
so
it's in
far.
Philly.
Yeah,
That would be
that Niners
nice.
game is in Philly. Yes. So we get basically a run it back from last year's NFC
Yeah.
Championship.
Yeah.
We got to talk playoff picture, Joe.
Yeah, the AFC. So I was on the way home. They were talking about this. It was crazy. I guess throughout the day as it progressed, there was like a million different changes to the 1 seed in the AFC, which could also still change if the Ravens win
The
tonight.
Ravens win. Yep.
So, so the Chiefs are 8-3, Jaguars 8-3, Dolphins 8-3, and then the Ravens are 8-3 currently pending this game. They could go 9-3 or 8-4. But yeah, so Dolphins they won the other day, so they took first. Jaguars won this morning, so they took first. And then the Chiefs won right now in the afternoon, so then they're still in first, as they originally were, tied with the Ravens. And then the Ravens could take it all with the win right now.
Yeah, they're all 8-3. The Chiefs,
Yeah,
Jags, Dolphins, Ravens. As it stands right now, the Chiefs would win the tiebreaker. The Jaguars would be second, the Dolphins would be third, the Ravens would be fourth. But again, as we said, if the Ravens win tonight, it puts them in first and shuffles everybody else back one. So
yeah.
we'll see what happens. Ravens Chargers is currently 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. Chargers are winning on Sunday Night
Sure.
Football.
And then the
Um,
division or the wild card teams we got the Steelers at 7-4, Browns at 7-4, Colts at 6-5, and then in the
Look
hunt
at the
teams we got
feisty
the
Colts without their QB still hanging
Yeah,
around. I mean,
Gardner
they would
Minshew, I
be
wrote
in.
him off too
They
early.
would be in. They would be in today if
Yeah.
the playoffs started today. They would be in.
And then the in the hunt teams outside looking in, we got Texans at 6-5, Broncos at 6-5, Bills at a 6-6, and the Bengals at 5-6, slowly slipping, but they're hanging on.
The if the Chargers win tonight, they kind of add themselves onto that in the hunt graphic
The
at five
five
and
and six,
six.
yeah, yeah,
It feels unlikely that they will make it at this point, but they would technically kind of be still hanging on. So
hmm
we'll throw that out there. The Bills have a tough schedule the rest of the way. They're going to have to be really good. The Texans, if we had to take a guess at who these wild card teams would be, it feels like our divisions are pretty division winners in the AFC. We
that,
feel pretty good
yeah,
about who those four teams will be now. Not to say that things couldn't change because the Browns and Steelers are only a game back of the Ravens right now,
hmm
but it feels pretty secure. The Bills are 2.5 back of the Dolphins with a win over the Dolphins already this year. The Texans and Colts are 2 back of the Jags. And the Chargers are, I guess, would be the closest team to the Chiefs if they can win tonight. They're 3 games back. So, like I said, it feels like we know who the division winners will be. It's those wild card teams. It feels like Steelers will likely be one of them. The Browns, we have to see what happens. I mean, with the backup
yeah,
QB, that could be tough the rest of the way. Um,
PJ Walker.
if I looking at things as they stand, I think I would take the Texans and the Browns to get in with the Steelers right now. Or the I said sorry, I said the Browns. I meant the Texans and the Broncos. The way if we're just taking how teams are
That's
playing
what I
right
was
now,
thinking.
I think the Steelers, Texans, Broncos would be my 3 wildcard choices.
hmm
The Bills, if they can muster the wins in that gauntlet of a schedule, would be very dangerous as a
Yeah,
playoff team at that point. But we'll see. They basically have to go 4-1 the rest of the way, and they've got brutal games. Their only gimme left is the Patriots, basically. Every other game is going to be tough. So the Colts, I just don't know if I trust Gardner Minshew enough. And then the Browns, they have the upper hand right now, but they've got some tougher games. And DTR went out with a concussion today, so they may be
Yeah.
playing with PJ Walker on the road next week at Los Angeles at the Rams. And if Amari Cooper can't go, that really depletes their offense in an already depleted offense. So the Browns may have some tough sledding with these injuries. We'll see. But their defense is so dominant that you have to take them seriously.
Yeah, I would agree that I would say the Texans and Broncos would take in those last two spots. The Colts, I don't know. I could see a scenario where the Steelers start falling here soon, but maybe that's just me being a hater. And then the
Their
Colts
offense
would,
played a lot better today.
yeah, that the without Matt Canada, we don't know what they're like till today. So I guess we gotta see going forward how it plays out. But I was gonna say, if anything, I could also see the Colts staying in that wild card position, and then the Texans and Broncos sliding as well. But I mean, it's just speculation. And then moving to the NFC picture right now, we got the Eagles at 10-1, 49ers at 8-3, Lions at 8-3. Also possible fraud alert right there. And the Falcons at 5-6, ahead of their division. With the wild card teams over there, we got the Cowboys at 8-3, Vikings at 6-5, Seahawks at 6-5. So they, if it was today, they'd be in. And then rounding out the in the hunt teams, we got the Packers 5-6, Rams at 5-6, Saints 5-6, and the Bucks at 4-7.
Um,
Also fighting for their division.
so let's talk first about the elephant in the room. The NFC South is, in Charles Barkley's voice, terrible.
Uh-huh.
It's as bad as it was last year. And last year, the Bucks at least had Tom Brady. So you
Yeah,
were still
true.
like a little bit like,
They're still
well,
like, oh, they might pull something. They might
yeah.
got it.
The Falcons feel
Can't
like
write them off.
the most talented team in the division,
Mhm.
but they do so many dumb things that I can't take them seriously.
Yeah.
The Saints feel like overall probably the best team in the division, but you watch them and they struggle to finish drives in the red zone offensively.
Yeah.
They're better on offense than they were a year ago with Derek Carr, but they're not good enough right now that I take them seriously either. And then the
Yeah.
Bucks are just really like Baker. Every time I watch him, I'm like, man, that guy's tough and he's really scrappy and I like him. But he's just like not that talented at this point. Like
Yeah.
it's just not there. And they severely lack any kind of run game. So you're just asking
Mhm.
Baker to just win you games, and that's just really hard. I think Baker would be fine if you had a semblance of a run game, but they really don't. And defensively, they just aren't what they were 2 years ago. They just aren't. They're just
Also
not the
true.
same defense. So um, that NFC South, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine at who wins it. It's
I'm
terrible.
rolling Falcons. That's my best bet. I mean,
If
at the beginning of the year when they added Derek Carr, it Saints sounded like a sure thing, but I don't know.
I
You
still
flip
I
a
know they
coin and see who it is.
I know they lost today, but I still lean Saints winning the division, I think. I just
Yeah.
can't. Desmond Ritter is not a starting NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. He threw 2 picks today. The Falcons won despite him, not because of him. They won despite him.
Why'd they move
Um,
away from Taylor Heineke? Is he hurt or something? I know
well, he
they
got
brought him in for like
hurt.
a week and then
He got hurt, and they had to bring Ritter back, and then they kinda said, "Well, this was always our plan anyway. We just wanted to give Ritter, like, a couple weeks to see it and then bring him back," kinda thing, and so
we wanted to put him on the hot seat so he could see what it was like to pay for a spot.
I guess I don't know. The Falcons feel like a team that needs to either add Kirk Cousins in free agency this offseason or trade up in the draft to get a real quarterback. Because
Yeah.
just Desmond Ritter, he works hard. I'm sure he does all the right things, but like when you watch him play, he's slow in progressions. He makes bad decisions. He throws picks, and he
Yeah.
costs his team. I mean, his mobility is the saving grace right now. That helps, but I just don't think he's the guy there.
Mhm.
Other than that, feels like the Eagles, 49ers, Lions win their divisions at this
Yeah.
point. That feels pretty secure. Again, they all have at least 2 game leads in their division. And as far as the wild card goes, the Cowboys are most likely
They're
going to get
in.
the 5 spot.
Yeah. as every
Now,
year.
I do feel like the way things are playing right now and the way schedules look moving forward, the Packers and the Rams had a really front-loaded schedule.
Uh-huh.
The Vikings and the Seahawks have a backloaded schedule. Like, the Vikings still have to play the Lions twice. The
Yeah,
Seahawks still have
true.
to play the Niners again. The Seahawks still have to play the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Bills.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I kinda think that we could very easily the 2 teams in the NFC North and West that are a game back, I could see it flipping, and I could see the
Mhm.
Packers and the Rams in the
Packers and
playoffs,
the Rams in.
the Vikings and the Seahawks out, the way
Yeah.
things are shaping up right now, especially because we know the Rams have, in the Rams-Seahawks case, the Rams have the tiebreaker, they won both those games.
Yeah.
The Packers right now would not have it against the Vikings because they lost the one time they played, but they do get another game against them, and that could be huge in terms of creating a tiebreaker scenario for the Packers. So, and also, I mean, the Josh Dobbs thing has been really fun, but the Vikings are pretty beat up. And I don't know if I can sit here and tell you, like, yeah, Josh Dobbs is going to for sure get the Vikings to the playoffs. You
Yeah.
know, I could just, they finally lost, and it feels like, okay, maybe we'll see tomorrow, Monday Night Football against the Bears. The Bears are kind of one of those scrappy teams you don't want to play in November. We talked about this last time. That's
Yeah.
what they look like
Running up
right
the
now.
score.
I could just see though that the Packers and the Rams flipping with the Vikings and the Seahawks in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. But that's your NFL news, which we took a while to get through today. But thanks for sticking with us so far. So we'll move it along.
Yeah, so going to our fantasy update this week. I already won. I won by at least 9 at the moment. I got Justin Tucker playing, so we'll figure out how that adds up to the score. But big points we got. Jalen Hurts at 34.5. Christian McCaffrey 30.9 for me. For you, you had Bijan who went nutty 27.3, and then Patty Mahomes at 20.8, which gave us a totals of 128.6 after my whole team, and then 119 for your team, point 0.8. Josh Allen
Well,
on your bench went crazy, 39.6. Tough, but
sick,
I mean that's the playoffs. Once we get to the
sick,
playoffs, our bench is incorporated, and then we'll see what
sick,
happens. That'll
sick.
separate us in these games. So
All right. That's fine. So we're 6-6 now?
yeah, we're even
Feels
again.
like we're just gonna go back and forth every
Back
week.
and
That's
forth.
just
Yeah, it's literally going to be once we get to the playoffs, we'll determine truly who drafted a better team. If one of
yeah.
us wins too early, or if we go 1-1 and then whoever wins the last game, I don't know.
Best of 3, baby. Here we
Yeah,
go.
well, you got a better chance because my backup quarterback is Zach Wilson. So Josh Allen and Patty Mahomes are gonna run away with the
No, your
points no
backup
matter what.
quarterback is Tim Boyle now.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah. And also Mark Andrews is
Uh,
done, so I got Isaiah Likely as my other
okay.
dude. Hopefully for you, JJ comes back and it doesn't just
Yeah.
stay
That
watching
would
the games because that would be
yeah.
huge too.
So, really quick, wanted to revisit our, Thanksgiving predictions on our turkey legs.
Yeah.
Um, I said Goff, CD, and Kittle. You said Amon-Ra, CD, and CMC.
Yeah.
Um, we were both really far off on the first one. Jordan Love was actually the turkey leg guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Uh,
we didn't even expect the Packers to win that one, so
no.
never had a chance.
I knew there would be one upset during the day, and I felt like any of them
Yeah.
could happen, just didn't know which one, and that turned out to be
Yeah.
the one. And then in the Cowboys game, it was Dak and Deron Bland, much deserved by
Mhm.
both of them. And
Yeah,
then
definitely.
the San Francisco game, I just saw after
It
the
was
game
like
that
everyone, right?
CMC and George Kittle just, like, had turkey legs and were, like, handing them out to fans, so I don't know, I
Yeah.
guess we're just gonna say we were both right on that one because the group effort for the Niners. But with that being said, it's time, my friend. The
Ooh,
moment
the
we've
QB tiers.
all been waiting for, yep.
Yeah.
We're
Long
revisiting
waited for sure.
we're revisiting the QB tiers. The last time we did this, it was, week 4, so it's been 2 months since we looked at these QB tiers, and I know Jody is just thrilled right now because he's just been waiting for this. Um, so, obviously, as we go through the tiers, if you're new here and you don't know what I do with the QB tiers, we rank them in tiers as actors. All right. So the analogy goes, if this quarterback is this actor, you know what kind of movie you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Um, so right now, there's a lot of movement at the top in terms of guys kind of falling in and out of the top two tiers. Um, and then a little bit more movement in some of the young guys, but not a lot. And then really we added a tier specifically because there are so many injured quarterbacks right now that we had to add an injured tier, and I'll go through that when I get there at the end. But I'm going to give you kind of quick hitters on every guy.
Oh, that's
Um,
comedy.
yeah, I'm going to give you quick hitters on every guy and go through just a quick stat as I give you the tiers. So we're starting in the A plus plus, A-lister, best star, DiCaprio tier, right? These guys are your Super Bowl worthy quarterbacks. These are your best quarterbacks that you could have right now. Guys that I would have right now, I would want right now in this moment and moving forward in the next few years. Number one is Patrick Mahomes. It's been Patrick Mahomes. It probably will stay Patrick Mahomes for as long as he plays.
Yeah.
He's got the best completion percentage in his career right now at 67.1%. He's got
That's
the
impressive.
lowest he's got the lowest sack rate in his career at 3.3%, and he's on pace for the most rushing attempts in his career at most rushing attempts, and his yards per attempt are at 6.2 right now. So those would both be career highs as well. So he's doing different
Mhm.
things than he's ever done, and I think he's doing it with less talent around him, and
Yeah.
yet still having an unbelievable season. And people may not be appreciating it because it's not as dominant or doesn't look as clean, but he's doing a lot of things that if you really watch the tape, you can tell he's still the best guy in the league. Number two, and the only other guy in this tier right now, it's Lamar Jackson. He leads all quarterbacks in rushing attempts at 5.3 yards per carry, while also still having the best completion percentage in his career, 69.5%. That's higher than
Mm.
Mahomes, by the way. He's on pace for the most passing yards in his career. In this new offense, he's a different quarterback. He's unlocked tools that I think a lot of people knew were there, but the people who didn't know, who were skeptical, there's nothing to be skeptical about now. And now the biggest thing for him is just making sure he stays healthy down the stretch. Just stay
Yeah.
healthy, and he'll have one of the better years of his career. And that's saying something for a guy who's won an MVP. All right, we're going to the next tier. This is the elite tier, the Matt Damon tier, right? Not the A Lester, but like guy's got every movie he's in is good. So here we go. The Matt Damon tier, number one guy I've got here, Justin Herbert. Right now, he's top 5 in touchdowns, interceptions, and QBR. Can we get the man some help? That's all I have to say on that. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. He's got the best completion percentage of his career right now, 68.5%. He's got the most yards per game, 249.7. He just won a duel against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in back-to-back weeks where
Mhm.
he led game-winning drives. Enough said, right?
Yeah.
Um, Number 3 in this category, I've got Josh Allen. He's on pace for the most interceptions of his career, but he's still top 5 in QBR, completion percentage, and overall completions. And he was also amazing today against the Eagles.
Yeah.
So having what many might consider like a down year for him, and he's still top 5 in the league in a lot of the important stats, that lets you know how good this guy is. Now, he's fallen out of my A++ DiCaprio tier from week 4, and this is the first time he's been out of that tier in 2 years, basically. But it's because he's thrown too many interceptions. However, if he continues to
Mhm.
play like he played today, he'll be right back up there. So he didn't fall far, but he did fall. Number 4 in this tier, Tua. Passed for the most first downs in the NFL through week 12. Like,
Wow.
this guy's putting the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Um, Number 5.
Speedsters.
Yeah, well, it helps that he has those 2 guys for sure. Number 5, Trevor Lawrence. He's got career highs in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and total QBR. 68.1 completions, 7.2 yards per attempt, and he's at a 60.2 QBR. So Lawrence is having maybe not quite the year statistically he had last year, but still a really, really good year right now. And I think a lot of people are sitting there saying like, is this guy as good as he's been? And it's like, yeah, he really is. Even if the stats maybe don't say, if you're really watching the tape and then you look
Uh-huh.
at he's on career, pace for career highs, that lets you know the guy's still getting better every day. So really like Trevor Lawrence here. And then lastly, in this tier, it's Dak. And this is the highest I've ever had Dak. He's got a 23-6 touchdown to interception ratio, which is insane. It's the best one in the league right now. He's top 5 in nearly every other passing stat. Um, I the only thing you can be critical about with Dak right now is that he's sort of feasting on inferior defenses,
Yeah.
and that would be the thing. But even against Philly, he showed up to play well. I know he stepped out at the 2. I get it. All right, I get it. But
Tough.
the guy was really good. He's
He
elite
had a
right now.
chance to beat them twice, so
He's a
yeah.
he's a, an elite top 10 quarterback right now. And overall, I have him at 8th in the league right now, and he's in that last of that elite tier guys. So, um, and I haven't always been the highest guy on Dak, but I think he's playing his best football of his career right now. So that's what I've got so far. Before I get to the Paradox Sandler tier, Jody, any comments that you have? Anything you disagree with?
I'd either at least move Jalen Hurts up one ahead of Justin Herbert or put him in the A++ DiCaprio. Those are my thoughts. Other than that, I think it's chilling. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I've always been high on. I'm glad to see Dak has been able to move up. And Justin Herbert's like you said, he needs a team. Like I could agree with that. Dude puts up crazy numbers, doesn't really win with the Chargers, and at this point they might as well just get rid of him, get what they can for him, rebuild.
True, true. I think with Hertz, the only thing that has kept him out of the A++ tier has been a little bit inconsistent in first halves, specifically this year. He's kind of done this thing, especially the last 2 weeks. He's had terrible first halves against the Chiefs and the Bills, and then just figured it out and found ways to win in the second half, and that's why he's still elite. But even he did have a game earlier in the year where he never did figure it out against the Jets and threw a game-losing interception. So
True.
um, he's been a little bit more inconsistent this year, I think, than he was last year, and yet people will still look at him as an MVP guy because he just finds ways to win, and that's what you love about him. So I guess that's my little knock on him and why I have him lower than the other 3 guys in front of him and why he's not in that A++ DiCaprio tier right now, but he's a winner, so not too many complaints with him. Um, moving on to the Paradox Sandler tier, and what we mean by this, really good movies, really bad movies. They're on both ends of the spectrum at different times. Guys that you trust as your long-term starters, but guys that you're a little bit nervous about sometimes. Number 1 here, it's Matthew Stafford. Um, I had
Mhm.
him in the elite tier, in the Damon tier earlier in the year, but he's having one of his worst seasons in a while. He's got his lowest completion percentage since 2013, but he's still top 11 in yards per attempt, yards per game, and on 20-plus yard throws. He just finished his best game of the year by far today, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception, threw
Dang.
for, I think, nearly 250 yards when it was all said and done, found multiple guys, threw the ball to multiple targets. He
Mhm.
got Tyler Higbee in the end zone twice. He got Kyron Williams in the end zone twice. So he had his best game of the season by far. The Rams had their most productive offensive day by far, but um, when it's really good with Stafford, you win a Super Bowl with him. When it's bad, he's throwing terrible interceptions. So that's where you get nervous with him. But I think for the most part, if he continues to play the way he did today, and that's with the banged up thumb, he easily jumps back up into that, Damon tier. But moving on, we got Jared Goff. This is a stat that may surprise a lot of people, but entering today, he had the most 20-plus yard throws in the NFL. He was tied with C.J. Stroud. I believe C.J. Stroud pulled ahead of him slightly after today's game, but Goff has played really well. He's surprised everyone, I think, with his tenure in Detroit. However, he has thrown 8 interceptions this year, which is a little bit worrisome. You don't like when Goff gets the happy feet and feels pressure and just throws it up for grabs. So That
Yeah.
is a little concerning. It's interesting to see Goff and Stafford right next to each other, given that they were traded for each other, which is not to say that the trade was bad. The Rams obviously won a Super Bowl, but it's just funny seeing these guys right next to each other. I didn't do that on purpose. Next, CJ Stroud. This is probably the highest I would be willing to go with a rookie. I have him right now as the 11th best quarterback in the league. That is major praise. Like, generally, I'm you know how I am about sample size and considering past, present, future, all of it.
Mhm.
But the context of his situation and what he's done is really impressive. He leads the NFL entering week 12 in passing yards per game. I'm sure after today, he still leads that with nearly 300 yards a game from a rookie. I talked about the explosive throws. He's been incredible with Tank Dell.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I will say, though, the reason I can't move him any higher is you still see the youth and inexperience at times. He had the 3 INTs a couple weeks ago or last week, I believe. He also today, he took 2 critical sacks on their 2-minute drill that led to them missing the field goal to tie. You can't take sacks in 2-minute drill when you don't have timeouts. And he took 2 of them today. So that really hurt them. And you can't say that it lost them the game, that it was his fault. He was the reason they were even in it, okay? But
Mhm.
just still makes some rookie mistakes that right now I can't put him above a guy like a Matthew Stafford, okay? Next guy in this category, Brock Purdy. He leads the NFL in total QBR right now at 75.7. Leads the NFL in yards per attempt at 9.4. Those are all the good, right? The extreme
Yeah,
good. When things are flowing in that 49er offense and everyone is healthy, Brock Purdy, you might trick yourself into
light
thinking
it
he's the
up.
best. You might trick yourself into thinking he's the best quarterback in the league. However, then you see games like the Browns game where he looked terrible, awful.
Yeah,
So there's good and bad with Purdy. It's been mostly good, and right now I have him as the 12th best guy. You look next, it's Kyler Murray. The small sample size today did not help him. He did not get help from his offensive line today, his receivers for that matter. He's played pretty well since he's been back, today being the exception. I want to see more, but he looks healthy and dangerous as ever. So I've got Kyler Murray sitting there. Next, I've got Geno Smith. It's a slight downtick from his career year last year,
yeah, that's
but
for sure.
he's still got a 12-7 interception to touchdown ratio. And I think, the guttiness, the moxie he showed, I don't even know if guttiness is a word, but if it isn't, I just made it one. The moxie he showed last week against the Rams to even get the Seahawks in field goal position,
Yeah, true.
very impressive. And he consistently is tough week in and week out. Now, that 49ers defense beat him up on Thanksgiving, but I would expect him to have some bounce back games and some really tough moments down the road here. So next, I've got Russell Wilson, who's been cooking lately. Coming into today, he had a 19-4 touchdown to interception ratio, which is right there with Dak as one of the better ratios in the league. It's very, very good. He's been 69% completion percentage. He's been doing the things that they need him to do to win games. I don't think he's elite anymore, and I don't know that he'll ever be in that elite tier in the one above, but I think he's firmly in this third tier of quarterback right now in the Sandler tier where he's making
Yeah,
really good movies pretty consistently right now. And every so often he will have a bad one though.
yeah, no,
That
definitely.
still exists. We go to Derek Carr. Carr tied the NFL lead entering week 12 with 7 completions of 40 plus yards, which is funny because the knock on him is that he likes to check it down. And that's true. It's not like that's false. It's just that he has been timely with the explosive plays, and he had a couple more today against the Falcons. The problem was every time they get in the red zone, they stall, and part of it is Carr. He's just not quick enough in the decision making in the red zone sometimes. He stared down a receiver today. Jesse Bates pick sixed him. He's only at 6.7 yards per attempt right now. He needs to be better for them. And then lastly in this category, I've got Jordan Love. I've moved him up since the last time we did this. He's 3-1 in his last 4 games. I heard a lot of people talking, about 2 weeks ago that I don't know if Jordan Love has it. But in
Mhm.
those 4 games, he's averaging 277 yards per game. He's got an 8-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He's been fantastic recently. In the last 4 games, if he keeps playing that
Yeah.
way, I think the Packers make the playoffs. Um, so Jordan Love is seeing an uptick in his game. Okay, we go to the 4th tier here. This is not a fun tier, from here down, really. You really want to be in that upper half of the league in those top 3 tiers. That's the top, you know, 17 guys. So you're in the upper half of the league if you're in those first 3 tiers. From here on out, we're talking about guys who we're not sure if they're bona fide starters, right? This is the
Mhm.
cryptic Nicolas Cage tier. And again, it's just a lot of questions. We're not sure. We just got a lot of questions about this guy. Sometimes they look like they could be a star in a movie, and sometimes you're like, man, that's a bad movie. So Justin Fields, he's got 6.4 yards per rush in his career. He's a dangerous runner. He's probably the most dangerous running quarterback in the league, even including Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. And yet, he just needs to be healthy and to finish strong. I mean, he's averaging nearly 200 yards passing per game this season, which is a career high. We just haven't seen it enough. I mean, we just haven't seen enough good stuff in the passing game from him. And there's a lot of excuses we could make for him, but it's year 3, and we're not seeing a whole lot of difference yet. And he's been hurt this year, so it sucks.
Yeah.
But in his healthy, you know, last finish to the season, this is his moment. Because I'm going to tell you, if he doesn't finish the year strong, the Bears are drafting a quarterback. They won't do what they did last year and not draft one. I would imagine they're drafting one if he does not finish this year strong. Now, if he finishes the year strong, they can just say, "Hey, we'll get Marvin Harrison Jr. in here and give you a lot of help," right?
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, then they can draft another quarterback and probably still draft Marvin Harrison Jr. So, um, because they got those top 2 picks. So, Fields needs to finish strong. Next, I've got Baker Mayfield. He's got a 15-6 touchdown to interception ratio entering today's game, and then he was 11th in the NFL in EPAs per dropback, which is a pretty good stat for him. Considering I have him as like the 19th best quarterback in the league right now. However, it's what I told you. Just the arm talent sometimes seems lacking. He just has so much moxie, and he'll just tough his way through games. And I
Yeah.
think he's actually a really good leader. I don't think you're feeling terrible if he's your quarterback, but you don't feel good either. So that's kind of
Mhm.
the cryptic question, starter with questions there. Next, I've got Kenny Pickett. All I'm going to say right now is just Matt Canada, and we'll see how the year finishes. Moving on. We got Josh Jobs. Josh Jobs is gone from the B-list Leto tier to this cryptic Nick Cage tier, and since the last time we did this, and you got a lot of Josh Dobbs magic. He leads all QBs in the NFL entering Week 12 with 5.6 yards per carry. That's a minimum of 6.5 attempts per game. So it means he's running the ball a lot in every game,
Yeah.
and in doing so, he's got the most yards per carry of any quarterback taking that many carries. Um, he's had some magic, but I don't think he's a long-term starting option. I think he's a great backup, but there may be some
Mhm.
teams that look at him, and the way that the NFL is built right now, we don't have 32 long-term starting options. So what
Yeah.
that does is it
That's for
makes
sure.
Dobbs a starter, and that's why he has to be here because he's done enough this year that he'll probably be someone's starter next year if they don't figure it out in different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like that feels like it could happen. Um, he's just going to be a guy who probably bounces around the league and starts for different teams. I don't think he's
Mhm.
anyone's long-term answer, but I think he starts a lot for the rest of his career. We're moving down another tier. This is the young Holland tier, right? This is the youthful tier, the guys who we just don't have enough data on yet to really make a choice. They may have looked good. There may have been some flashes. We'll see moving forward. Um, First guy I've got here, Sam Howell. He leads the NFL in pass attempts by a mile, 486 attempts. He's
Jeez.
um, he's because of that, he's tops in the league in passing yards. He's right up there. But he's also taken 55 sacks, which is by far the most as well. So really don't know on Sam Howell. There are moments I watch him, I'm like, man, this guy makes big time throws that none of
Yeah,
these other young
definitely.
guys make. Then I also watch him, I'm like, this guy makes big time boneheaded decisions that some of these other guys don't make too. So gotta watch more from him. I do like him in Eric Bieniemy's offense, though, I think. Next, I've got Bryce Young. He's been sacked the third most in the NFL. There's instability at the play caller. He has a lack of weapons. I just am not ready to evaluate him. I probably won't be until next year.
Mhm.
Will
That
Levis
makes sense.
is next here. It's a small sample, but the guy's got a 6-2 touchdown to interception ratio in 4 starts against Bryce Young. He was able to win today. Um,
Yeah.
he looked good. Sometimes he does look good. Sometimes he looks young. But there's some promise there. Desmond Ridder, he's got 6 interceptions and 8 starts this year. He had 2 more today, so that'll be 8 interceptions and 9 starts. That's concerning. I almost moved him down to the B list Leto tier, but I want to give him at least 10 starts before I just say you don't have it.
Yeah.
Next, we've got Aiden O'Connell. It's complete question marks. He threw 65 touchdowns in college. DTR, same thing. Complete question marks. He threw 88 touchdowns in college. All right. So we'll see with those guys. We probably have the rest of the season with both those guys as starters. Joe, anything you haven't liked about these 3 tiers here? The Paradox Sandler tier, the Cryptic Cage tier, and the Young Holland tier.
I feel like CJ Stroud should be higher in my eyes, but you don't like the tape, or not enough tape, I should say. You don't like the amount of tape that we have,
He still
which I
makes rookie
guess,
mistakes. He still makes
yeah,
rookie mistakes
which is
that
also why I'm assuming Brock Purdy follows him as well. He does
yes.
some interesting things.
Purdy is also surrounded by an embarrassment of riches with one of the best
Yeah,
play
true.
callers in the NFL. I feel like we've just seen every quarterback who's ever played for Shanahan have success. So it makes it
Yeah.
really hard to be like, well, Purdy's just that good. It's like, well, I don't know. We got to keep watching.
Cryptic tier, the Nicolas Cage. I ran through a whole different way of everyone after Fields. So all 3 of those dudes, Baker, Kenny Pickett, and Josh Dobbs. I feel like you could just mix them however you like to your fitting and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the Tom Holland tier, I did. I saw Aiden O'Connell and I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is Aiden O'Connell." I figured it out, but I
Yes.
was like, I
Yes.
was so confused.
Okay.
Uh, let's see, Will Levis. I think maybe out of the other 3 dudes following him, I guess he is. I would say he probably is better than them, but I feel like with him, the sample size is still small. He could probably,
Really small. Really
yeah.
small.
Because that first game he lit it up today, against Bryce Young, did like enough to win.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I think it's chilling. I mean, like you said, Sam Howell, maybe you could throw him behind Dobbs, maybe. I don't know. But with Bieniemy, I'm always nervous to pick the under against them just because I know they have the possibility to just run up the score with Bieniemy at calling the plays.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get into our last 2 tiers here. This is the B list Leto tier. These are basically guys who are just better in supporting roles. They are not day in and day out starters. We know it. They're just backups. And that's just the reality. Like if this guy no team in their right mind is going into next season with this guy as their long-term starter if they want to feel good about it. So here we go. Gardner Minshew, the guy is a big play or a turnover waiting to happen, and there's just no in between. He's been good enough to win games for the Colts, and I think that's exactly what he is. He's probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and maybe Josh Dobbs. Those 2 are, I think, neck and neck for basically they would
Uh-huh.
just be. You'd feel great if you have this guy as your backup quarterback because if you need him to just go in and win you 3 games, they can do it. That for sure. Now, if you're asking him to, over the course of an 18-game season, be the guy, that's when their inefficiencies and their instability shows up. But Minshew's been playing well for the Colts, and he just turns the ball over too many times sometimes. So that's why I would have him in this tier. But he's my favorite guy in the tier for sure.
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito, major question marks. I mean, I guess he's won his last 2 games. He looked terrible early, and then he won the last 2. Still, I mean, I just don't think he's a guy that we look at as a starter seriously down the line. I just think he's a guy who's really probably trying to earn his stripes to be a long-term backup in the league, and he might be doing enough to do that right now. So big question marks on him. He threw 43 touchdowns in college for what it's worth. Jake Browning, another guy who, he's not quite young. He's been in the league for about 4 or 5 years. He came out of Washington, I think in 17, so maybe 6 years now.
Oh.
And, he threw 94 touchdowns in college. He led Washington to the college football playoff. They lost to Alabama that one year that they made it in. But, I think Jake Browning is a serviceable backup. He was okay today, threw a pick. But we'll see. Next, I've just got the Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, whatever the Patriots are doing combo of it's just not good. They look like they're tanking. That's how bad those guys are playing. They scored 7 points today. I mean, it's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
crazy.
And then last but least, Tim Boyle. He has a 4-11 touchdown to interception ratio in his career. I mean, it's a joke that he's starting. And it's not even really fair to him. He's not a guy who should be starting NFL games. I don't even know how he made it on the Jets roster. I mean, I heard it all over the place this year or this week, and I don't think people are wrong. Trevor Siemian should start their next game. I don't know how he doesn't. I don't know why it would be Tim Boyle again, but we'll see. And last but not least, we got the Jeremy Renner injured tier. All right. Shout out Jeremy Renner recovering from his really bad accident. But these are the guys who are just on ice, they're not making movies because they're hurt. Which Jeremy Renner hasn't been for a little bit here.
I think that's ironic as hell.
So here you go. Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers,
Kirk Cousins,
Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson,
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, Ryan Tannehill. I'm just it's tough to even say their names. They're all hurt. I think Ryan Tannehill might technically be healthy on that ankle now, and they're going with Levis, but I put him on here because he really lost his job due to injury.
Yeah.
So yeah, all these guys are on here. They're all hurt. What can you say? It sucks. It really does. And it feels like at least 5 of those guys are truly like starters. Burrow, Rodgers, Cousins, Richardson, Watson are at least bona fide starters that would probably all be at least in the top 4. I think all those guys might actually be in the top 3 tiers if they're healthy. So that's tough. It sucks. Jones, Tannehill might be slightly different stories. Their teams will likely be moving on from them after this year, I think. For sure, Tannehill, maybe Daniel Jones. We'll see.
Say they paid him though. I don't know.
We will see. But that does it for the QB tiers, my man. Hopefully, it didn't disappoint today.
I was having a field day when I saw the Jeremy Renner tier. I thought it was a great addition. I knew that we had plenty of them, and I wanted to say something about it, but I was like, you know what? It's his tears. I'm not gonna inspire him to do something else. And so when I saw it, I thought it was hilarious. Just that's who you chose, and I was glad it didn't disappoint.
Okay, good. But it's now time for awards. We can zoom through these. I know we've been taking your time today. We've been taking everyone's time today. We're going late.
And we're clocking in the hours, but kicking us off with these awards, we got our favorite Tukwa Gamer of the Week award. I'll kick it off first. I'm taking Devontae Smith. Excuse me. I got him at 7 catches on 8 targets, 106 yards and a touchdown in that game versus the Bills. I mean, we saw it late down the stretch in that game where that dude was taking over for the squad. A.J. Brown dropped a pass, critical down there. Next play, you go to him, running a dig. Gets the first, I think, multiple times on that drive. And not even that, just the weather alone, that makes things tough in his job. And he only dropped one of them. I mean, come on. What can we say? I think that's a Gamer of the Week worthy right there.
I'm going DaRon Bland. All I'm going to say is he's got 5 interception returns for touchdown. He does it on Thanksgiving with Jim Nantz on the call to get, dog. Just absolute gamer, bro.
That's where I wanted him.
He knew.
I wanted it for that spot.
He knew the moment and did it. So that's just the definition of a gamer. So also we need to start talking about him as the depoy because that's an unreal stat. We've never seen anything like it. So shout out to Ron Brilliant, dude. Gamer of the Week.
Yeah, he could get an honorable mention for the dog of the week because when he was on my mind the whole time, and then I saw you had him, I was like, can't take it. But he would have made my spot for sure. But speaking of the dog of the week, I'm going back to the classics. This one's easy. Derrick Henry. We talked about that Titan game real briefly about Will Levis doing enough to win.
Mhm.
When that's going on, who do you rely on? The guy that's been there for plenty of time now, Derrick Henry. He went 18 carries, 76 yards, 2 tutties, which was an average of 4.2 yards a carry. I mean, the dude, it's just old reliable, the old ball and chain. I don't know what you want to describe him as. He's just there, putting in the work all the time and making sure that he gets things done. And who else could you rely on when things are going a little bit sour? You go back to the guy, Derrick Henry. Let him carry the squad, quite
Okay.
literally.
All right.
Get the dub. Which
Um, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's gonna take us to our minor setback, major comeback. And I was wondering who you had this week.
Kyler Murray. He had a rough start for his first time since he's come back from the injury. He was 27 of 45.
Ooh,
So just, I mean, the fact that he had to throw 45 pass attempts,
yeah, that's brutal.
yeah, that's pretty unfair to him. Um, and he had 256 yards. He had a touchdown, not terrible stats, but he was sacked 4 times, under pressure all game. He played okay. His team, it just got away from him. The run game was non-existent. I think he'll get more help next week, and I expect better play from him when they go visit the Steelers. So minor
Mhm.
setback, major comeback. I'm going Kyler Murray.
See, we'll go ahead and skip ahead to the Munoz and then bounce back to the no cap hats off. Uh, but with the Strahan Munoz Big Fellow Award this week, I got Austin Jackson from the Dolphins, number 73. He plays right tackle, so that's the blind side for Tua. My dude. Okay, so I've talked about people having early days. This guy had the earliest today. He played one snap in the fourth quarter, and there
Wow.
was a rushing touchdown that they had that went
Nice.
right behind him. So that first off alone tells you one thing. He has a good punch in his pass, bro. I like his hands are just crazy vicious. My dude's always chucking them, and his vision's also crazy. I know I talk about it, people running stunts and stuff. This dude, he would literally chuck the dude into the guard and then pick up whoever came his way. And I guess the only negative I seen he had once he gave up a sack and then a false start in the game. Other than that, my
Okay.
dude's killing it. Great in the run game, great in the pass game. Not much to complain about.
Um, so my Strahan or on the defensive side, I kind of went old and young here.
Uh huh.
I'm going Kobe Turner for the Rams and Brandon Graham for the Eagles in a split award this week. So
Ooh.
rookie Kobe Turner for the Rams, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs. Had a
Okay.
fantastic game. Had the little conductor maestro sack
That's
dance. I like that. Thought that was classy.
sick.
14-year vet Brandon Graham on the other end of the spectrum for the Eagles. He had 2 tackles, a sack, a TFL, quarterback hit. And he also set a new Eagles record by suiting up in the green for his 189th game. Fitting it was in the Kelly Green in Philly today.
Mm,
189 games
that's
as an Eagle.
crazy.
That's impressive. When you think about all the Eagles legends who have played there and how long they played there, Brandon Graham stands alone now. Now,
Yeah.
shout out behind him, right behind him is Fletcher Cox at, I believe, 181. So 2
Okay.
guys who have just been on that Philly D line for, it feels like, forever. But shout out to Brandon Graham for doing that. And not only just being there, dude, the guys in year 14 still getting buckets,
Yeah.
sacks. Good for him. So we got to
And the
bounce
fir-
back to the no cap hats off award here. All right. I'm gonna go to college football first.
okay.
Donovan Edwards, the running back for Michigan, in the game to start the fourth quarter. They've got a second down. They run a little toss play to him, but then he raises up, passes the ball to their tight end, Colston Loveland, to start the fourth quarter. the Michigan-Ohio State game. Proved to be a massive play. Awesome play call by interim head coach and play caller Sharon Moore. If you haven't seen it, go look at it. Unbelievable. And then in the NFL, with one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, a trick play gone wrong. That was a trick play gone right. Trick play gone wrong. The Browns fumble the double reverse like toss back, and the Broncos are able to it bounces off of them, and they're running in after it, and everyone's scrambling for it. The Broncos finally do recover it. It was a huge play in the game too. So no cap, hats off, Michigan and the Denver Broncos.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check out that one from the Michigan-Ohio State game. That sounds sweet. Let's see. It's gonna lead us to our Who's Cooking Award, a QB who's either cooking up some good food or, maybe they're botching the recipe and it doesn't come out how you would like. And so this week I'm gonna take Josh Allen. Sadly, I mean the dude went crazy, but ultimately they lost in that OT game, as he does quite often. Actually, he went 29 for 51 in the rain. I don't know
Unbelievable diss.
I don't know why. I don't know why you're throwing 51 passes in the rain, but I mean, all credit to you. My guy had 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 carries, 81 yards, also 2 touchdowns rushing, and then he had an interception as well.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, my guy said, "What a diss."
Yeah, just that he just has a habit of losing in overtime. I was like, dang, man, that was brutal. That was a brutal just diss
Quick
right
dig.
there by Jody, who doesn't
Catching
usually do that,
stray.
by the way. I'm gonna go with Jordan Love for my Who's Cooking Award. He went 22 for 32, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs, 3 scrambles for 39 yards, and his first Thanksgiving start on the road to vanquish the mighty Lions, who had beaten them 4 times in a row. It was a huge game and a huge win for Jordan Love. Like, huge for his confidence, his team's confidence. They're standing in the playoff race. Like, his head coach, honestly, people were starting to talk about him, LaFleur on the hot seat, all of it, all that's now gone as a narrative. And
Yeah.
now it's just, hey, the Packers are dangerous. They could get into the playoffs. Huge win. I
Yeah,
mean, it changes
true.
everything for Jordan Love.
Here, quick tie back real quick. You know how you talked about the memes at the top?
Oh, yeah.
I seen memes for Thanksgiving games where it was like, oh, the Detroit going in and just losing. What a Thanksgiving tradition. It was like Family Guy or something. I don't know. I don't know if that was a real episode or they just got Stewie saying that, but it was hilarious to see. Let's see. It's gonna kick off my Boo Boo Evans Award. This one, I don't know if you've seen the video on this one, but I'm taking Deontay Johnson.
Oh, yeah,
Where
I
he
did
just
see this.
gives up on the play, just like
The
there's a
controller went
fumble right
out.
next to him, just yeah, yeah, quite literally, his controller died, and he stopped playing mid-play and just, like, turned around. But it's not even just that, he excuse me, he had, where did I write it down? He had 4 receptions on 8 targets and 50 yards, and one of those was a catch for 39, so it's like, on his other 3 catches, he only got 11 yards, like, that's brutal. He also those 4 drops that he had tied the most for the whole team. So the team as a whole had 4 drops, and he had 4 on his own. So it was like total of 8 for the squad, and he had half of them. So not a good look, especially when you're getting blasted for that play as well. It's not what you want to see from your receiver.
We'll finish up the awards here with the Standing on Business Award, and I'm just going to say it right now. We just might need to rename this the Dallas Cowboy Award, because for the second week in a row, the Cowboys covered as heavy favorites. Again, dude, minus 13.5, and they won by way more than 13.5, dude. They covered
Yeah,
by a
that's
mile, absolutely routed the Commanders. They were eating turkey legs at the end of the third quarter, man. Like, it was a brutal day for Sam Howell and the commies. But yeah, standing on business, Dallas Cowboys once again. We'll push it forward to the turnover on down segment. And I got some fun stuff for you on first down, Jody. You ready?
check it out. Looks like we got 2 different plays. Is that what that says? Is that what I'm picking up?
Nah,
Bucks
one play,
and
one
Colts,
play.
or
So
that's
it's
it?
one play. I did see this.
Uh,
I did see this a lot in the NFL this week. I just picked the Buccaneers as the team to show it.
Uh-huh.
because they had one of the more effective versions of it today. But we talked about
Oh,
this,
shoot.
I think early last season with the 49ers. They were the best example of it that I've seen in a long time. But the teams in the NFL, I've saw the Cardinals run it today, the Bucks, the Eagles. This is just a common thing now. You're going to overload one side, right? It
Uh-huh.
forces the protection to slide. You're going to isolate probably your best pass rusher in a one-on-one situation backside with the tackle. At least that's what you're trying to do. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you're running games with the three-man side. Sometimes you're going to test out how well their pass pro rules, are effectively communicated, because in this case, they're actually going to ISO rush the top two guys in the overload, and then their stand-up guy who's matched up with the center, they're going to give him a run all the way across and get up and under with the end who's supposed to be isolated.
Mm.
So now, when you're thinking maybe they're getting 3 for 3 and they're sliding over that way and it's a one-on-one, well, now if it crosses his face and he crosses back around the outside, these, O linemen, they got to be good enough to pass that off. And a lot of times that's a hard task. So this is
Mhm.
3rd and 8, a one possession game in the third quarter against Gardner Minshew and the Colts. And you'll see, I talked about the Bucks defense not being as good, but man, this was a great play from them. They get up and underneath it. They force Minshew to back away. He ends up throwing the pass 10 yards deep from the line of scrimmage, and it forces an overthrow to Josh Downs on a critical 3rd and 8, forces the field goal attempt now in the red zone.
Mhm.
So you
And
watch
the
it here,
man
I mean, he's throwing, backpedaling, he had to throw it again, like legitimately 10 yards deep from the line of scrimmage because of the pressure created.
yeah,
The pocket moved,
yeah,
right?
literally at 10.
He's 10 yards deep, and it's just because they moved that pocket with their game, and now it rushes the throw. It's an overthrow. It's a deeper throw than he wanted it to be, and it forces the incompletion in a field goal attempt. So teams are doing this to speed up the quarterback's clock while only rushing 4,
Uh-huh.
which, if you're able to do it, that's really big time because it lets you play coverage with 7 still, right? So
Yeah,
it's
true.
huge, for the teams that are doing it, and that's why teams are scheming it up and running these games, and you're seeing it all over the place in the NFL and in college. So, if you're seeing that overload, expect some kind of game happening.
As I said, they did that nicely too. The guard on that play got swallowed up with the end crashing and then the tackle coming around, the nose tackle coming around. So they schemed that up real nice. The second down on our turnover and downs is going to be me giving you the bet for next week. Let's see. Looking ahead, I got the Falcons -2.5 versus the Jets. That one's a tough one just because that Jets D could keep them in that game. But like we said, Tim Boyle, might not have it to score points on the other end. The Colts -2 versus the Titans. I think the Colts are just a better team. Although, according to the QB tiers, Gardner Minshew, might not compare to Will Levis. Who knows? But I like the Colts in that one. Jonathan Taylor, at least, is going to score a tutty rushing. I got the Chiefs and the Packers. I'm taking the over 42 in that game. Like we talked about the Packers, they're looking real nice. Chiefs, they have a tougher front core in the D. Like the D linemen are real nice, but I think Jordan Love's looking a lot better and can help score points still throwing the ball. And then the last one I'm looking at is Panthers Bucks under 38.5. That's the one I'm gonna go with. I think both of
That's
them
a
just don't got enough
big bet.
juice to. Yeah, I don't. Both of them don't got enough juice in my eyes to score over 20 a pop, let alone get over that 38.5.
Yeah,
So
I
that's gonna
like
be
that.
my bet for the week.
The only way I think that busts for you is if just Mike Evans and Baker have like a huge
The
day, and
field day, yeah, they go
it's
crazy,
just a
and then
blowout. Yeah,
yeah, that's the
that'd be
only
the
thing
only
I
way.
see too. But it's like I don't know, they've been looking real sad, so
Yeah, I'm with you.
that's what I'm
All
banking
right,
on.
we're gonna go to the third down breakdown, and we're gonna travel back to Thanksgiving, and we're gonna look at the Packers. At this point, it was a 7-6 game, I think, because the Lions had missed an extra point. But 7-6, they're in the red zone. They're
Is
trying
the
to take a
Craft Teddy?
yeah, trying to take a commanding lead. and it's 3rd and 1 inside the 10. Now, one unbelievable play call by Matt LaFleur, like just in his bag right here in terms of the play call. Great sell by Tucker Kraft and great play action by Jordan Love and Dylan, right? So you'll see they're going to get the play action stretch look going left. You're going to motion in Christian Watson. Then he's going to run like the clear out route to the back corner.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft is actually going to block Aiden Hutchinson and be engaged with him for about 2 seconds before he really delay releases to the flat. You're going to get Jaden Reed running the over route across on the goal line, and then backside Dobbs has just got the back pylon or the field goal, the goalpost route, right? So here you watch it now. If you look in the box, they're 2 for 2, right? Coverage wise, these two are responsible for these two. Now watch what happens though. He's mugged up, right? He walks up into it. They're actually short now once that happens because they're both going to attack the line of scrimmage, and watch what happens with Tucker Kraft. He engages for, like I said, that 2 seconds. Then he just disengages with Aiden Hutchinson, just tosses him.
Yeah.
And in doing so, gives Jordan Love all the time he needs. Look, all the coverage is over here. No one covering Tucker Kraft, like wide open. And Jordan Love just floats it to him, lets him get in the end zone. Huge touchdown there, which really helped the Packers take control of the game. But yeah, once again, you can see it. Once this guy walks up, I mean, he's thinking, oh, it's run. I'm going to make this play, right? He runs in there, doesn't make the play, and stops his feet, right?
Yeah,
well, okay, this
tough.
corner sees deep route, by Watson. I got to go with it. Now there's no one left to cover Tucker Kraft. A complete bust by the Lions defense, and it happened because the Packers had such a great play call and sold it so well.
I was gonna say
Great job.
they should run a screen behind him. He did that real nice.
Yeah, it was great execution all the way around.
All right, closing out the turnover on downs. Our 4th down is me giving you a bad beat. I got a couple this week. I'm going to some prop picks. So we have our guy Stephon Diggs. His line was 74.5. Closed out at 74 in that overtime game.
Okay.
We got Dalton Kincaid, same game, 40 yards receiving. He had 38, I think, in the first half and didn't get any more since. Oof. And then last one I seen was Jaylen Warren. His rushing yards, he had multiple depending on when you got it. It was 49.5 or 50. Dude closed out with 49 in the game, in that Steelers game. So just tough games all around for all those dudes. Not being able to clear out those overs if you had those.
That is tough. All right, well, we'll finish it out here. Banger of the week.
Sir, what do you got for us this week?
So this is more of something I'm admitting, I guess, than like, and maybe you check it out. But we're gonna instead of a specific song or show, I'm gonna give you a genre. All right. Okay. So I didn't know this existed until this last week. I was talking to one of our coaches, and I was introduced to something called butt rock. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, and you heard me right, I said it, butt rock.
Yeah.
So some examples of what counts as butt rock from what I learned in my research. Bands like Creed, Puddle of Mud, Breaking Benjamin. Some even say Nirvana and Soundgarden count. Nickelback, depending on who you ask. So it's a subgenre of rock and roll that peaked in the mid 2000s. And I would just say this. I think there's plenty of songs that fall within this butt rock genre that I would say are a guilty pleasure of mine, in terms of when I'm looking for like a switch up and what I'm listening to. And I'm just kind of in that mood of like, I'd like to listen to some stuff like this right now. So guilty pleasure music for me, butt rock. It's an interesting genre, and if you're unfamiliar, check it out.
Can you give us a couple songs out of these dudes that you like? Some good ones?
Okay, so if I'm thinking Puddle of Mud, there's a song called Blurry. Many people probably would recognize the song if you heard it. Creed was in the news this week because 20 years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, they played the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving halftime show, and it's the song
Oh, yeah,
"Higher,"
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they did a whole
They've been
deal,
going
and that
crazy all
yeah,
Thanksgiving. They were like,
yes,
how does Jack Harlow not have anything as cool as this?"
no, yes. So, they were getting their flowers this week, so Creed, "Higher." I mean, those are some of the better ones I can think of off the top of my head, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, there you go. So, Puddle of Mud, Blurry, and, Creed, "Higher." Those are some excellent butt rock songs if you're interested. Yes, Jody, any comment there? I mean, or are you just gonna let that be what it
Uh,
is?
I mean, I'm surprised that's what they're calling it. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
how
know
that came
either.
about, but,
I don't know either.
like
I'm not really sure, but I think it's
like, I don't
hilarious.
know, maybe I'm bugging, but maybe it's just, like, classic rock? I don't know. I'm not a big rock guy in general, so I couldn't really tell you. But,
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, we'll let that be what it is, butt rock.
All right.
And
And on that note,
yeah, our
that's
guy
that's
Ray Ray,
NFL Week 12 right there. So, yeah, our guy Ray Ray. Go ahead, Joe.
he's gonna take it out for us.